In this video series, I'm going to show you how you can create your own autoresponder system using WordPress. The good thing about this is that it is totally free. There's absolutely no cost other than you're going to have a place to host it. So you're going to need a domain name and a hosting provider, but that's very inexpensive. And if you're doing web business, you need that anyway, and you probably already have it. The other thing is that this is friendly to shared hosting. With shared hosting, you're only allowed to send a certain number of emails per hour or per day or whatever their limits are. So with the autoresponder system we're going to build here, you'll be able to set throttling so that it'll only send out so many per time period that you specify. So you will stay within the terms of the shared hosting accounts, which will allow you to run your autoresponder on those shared hosting accounts without violating their terms. So that makes it a good way to get an autoresponder system going if you do not have the funds to use one of the big autoresponders, or you just want to have full control over your own autoresponder. Okay, now the first thing we need to do is install WordPress. And you can go to wordpress.org. You can download the WordPress files here and do a manual install. I've included a separate video that shows you how to do that. However, for this demo, I'm just going to use the fast way, which is to use Fantastico Deluxe to do the 2-click install, and then we'll get started with that. Okay, so right now I'm going to go to my control panel and I'm going to install WordPress with the 2-click installer. Okay, so if you have cPanel hosting, you can look and see if you have Fantastico Deluxe. If you do, you'll be able to do it this way. You may be able to do this from other hosting panels as well. Okay, so just click on that. Okay, and this brings you up to the main Fantastico menu here. Now what you want to do is go to WordPress, so click on that. Now once you're in here, it shows you all the WordPress blogs that you have installed on your server using this method, but it won't show any that you installed manually. Okay, so let's do a new installation. So we click here. Okay, now it's very simple from here. You can pick your domain name out of the list. If you have several domains that are hosted on your one hosting account, you just use the drop down list here and pick the proper domain. If you only have one domain, of course, it's going to be right here. Now, since this is an autoresponder system, you're not going to want to put it in the root of your domain. Put it in a subdirectory somewhere. So all we do is fill in the install in directory here. So let's just call it autoresponder. Okay, now let's roll down a bit here. So your admin username, don't use admin. When somebody is trying to break into a WordPress blog, they use brute force attacks using the username admin. So use something else. Okay, then your password. Use a strong password here. Let's put a number behind it. So I got a strong password 8. Don't use that. I was just making the point that it has to be a strong password. Admin nickname. This is just the nickname that'll show up on any posts. So doesn't matter. You can just put admin here, whatever you want. And then the email address here. This is the email address that will be the outgoing email address from your autoresponder. So this should be email address on your domain that you're using. So in this case, this is my domain name up here. So I would put admin at and then the domain name. Now make sure that you've set up an email account for that. So what you would do, let's open Control Panel in a new tab here. Okay, you'll see email accounts here, so click on that. And then here, set up the email account. So it's basically, you put admin here, whatever you're going to use, your domain here, the password again, it'll tell you about the strength, how big you want it, and create account. So this is a basic cPanel email setup. Your email setup may look a little different, but just make sure that you've set up the email account. And as you see down here, I have this one set up already. Okay, so back here. So let's fill this out. Okay, site name. You can put in a site name and description here, and this can be changed later. So I'm just going to put my autoresponder. Now, you'd probably want to do something like your name or your company name, newsletter or something like that. Let's say my company newsletter. Okay, and then description, whatever you want here. Okay, and then we click Install WordPress, and then Finish Installation. And there it is. So now all we have to do is click here. Okay, so now we just log in with the username and password that we just used to set this up, and we can continue with the install of the plugins and everything else we need. And we're going to get to that in the next video. In this video, we're going to start the setup of our autoresponder system. Now, before I go any further, I should mention a couple things. First of all, this is being shown as being set up as just a standalone autoresponder, separately from anything else. But you could also do this within your own blog. So if you've already got a WordPress blog set up, you can add an autoresponder right into that by installing the plugin that I'm about to show you. Okay, so if you already have a blog and you want to put the autoresponder within that blog, you can do that. But I'm showing you here just a standalone installation. Okay, so the first thing I always like to do is make sure that everything's up to date. So I go into Updates, and then I'm going to update to the WordPress version that is the most current. So it'll do that just like that. Okay, let's go back here and back to updates again. And then let's select the plugin and update. And then back to updates. And we're going to select the themes and update. Okay, and now we're starting with everything up to date. Now that we've done that, you can never go back to Fantastico and do anything with this blog again. You could uninstall it from there, but don't try and update it from there. Now, the next thing we're going to do is take the footprint for Fantastico out of the directory that this is in. Okay, so we can do that either from our cPanel using the file manager, or we can do it using a FTP client like FileZilla. I'll just show you using FileZilla. FileZilla is a free FTP client you can download, and with that you can upload and download files to your server. You can rename them, delete them, and so on. So let's open up FileZilla here. Okay, so this is FileZilla. On the left side here, this is the files that are on your computer, so you can navigate on this side to where your files are that you want to upload if you're doing an upload. On the right, this is going to be where your server will appear. So to get to your server, you type in your domain name under host here and the username and password of your hosting account. There's also a site manager, and if you use a site manager, all your domains can be stored in there, and then you can just click on them to connect. Okay, so I'm going to connect up. Okay, so there's my autoresponder directory where I've installed this. Now what you want to do is this one that says fantversion.php. Let's delete that. Just hit the delete key and get rid of it. Okay, now it has gotten rid of the footprint that Fantastico can leave in there. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Okay, now what we want to do is install our essential plugins here. So well, first of all, even though this is an autoresponder site, you still are going to want to do a proper home page. Okay, so let's do that first. Let's go back to dashboard and let's go into posts, all posts. Let's trash this, and pages, all pages, and trash this. Now, just to reiterate, I'm using this as a standalone autoresponder. If you're doing this on your blog, of course, you don't have to do this step. Okay, so I'm going to add new now, a new page, and then I would do something here talking about my company name, and then I'm going to put a opt-in form on here a little later. Okay, so about, and your company name here. And then your intro down here. Okay, now up here you have screen options and discussion. Let's turn discussion on here so we can see, and then let's turn off the allow comments and allow trackbacks. Let's publish. Okay, now we want to go to settings, and then we want to go to reading. I want to set this to a static page, and the front page is going to be the one we just built. Okay, very simple. And then we're going to go to discussion, and we're going to turn off the discussion. So attempt to notify blogs, allow link notifications, allow people to post comments. Turn that all off for your standalone autoresponder. Okay, so once again, I'm going to say it, if you're using your own blog, you don't have to do any of this. And that'll be the last time I'm going to remind you of that. Okay, we're talking about standalone autoresponder built on WordPress in this video series. Okay, so there we go. And we'll save the changes. Okay, so really, we have our simple site set up here. And you could go and change the theme if you want, or anything else you want to do, but I'm not going to. That's good enough for my autoresponder site. So let's go back here. Let's go to plugins, and we're going to go add new. And then what we want to do is search for a certain plugin. Okay, and the plugin we want is called WP Responder. So we're going to search the plugins. No, that's not quite right. Okay, so we want to search for WP Autoresponder. So let's search. There we are. WP Autoresponder and Newsletter plugin. So we're going to install that. And activate. Okay, so you need to do what it says here. You need to set your address in the newsletter settings page. So let's just do that right now. Now the first thing you want to do is make sure that you are going to comply with CAN spam. So you need to put your address in here, whatever your business address is. Okay, so this will appear at the bottom of all your emails. Okay, and if you want to put a logo in your emails, you can just put the URL to where you have it uploaded here. Okay, sometimes you may get a notification from the publisher of the plugin. You can either send it to the email address that is set up for your account, or you can send it to another email address. So if you just want to send it to a junk email address, you can just use send to this email address here. Okay, enable instruction emails after activation and enable important update news to the notification email address, you can just leave those enabled or disable them if you like. It's just all part of this activation of notifications up here. Okay, now what I was talking about earlier is the email limit. So you have an hourly email limit. So you need to find out from your hosting provider what that is. They usually have it on their help page. But using HostGator, the maximum you can send out hourly from your whole account is 500. So if you have other things sending out emails, you're going to want to reduce this. Let's put 350. Okay, so now this is going to throttle it up. And make sure that we don't overtax the server and get our account deleted or suspended. Now down here you can use an SMTP server if you want. What's going to happen otherwise is going to just use your default server on your account, on your hosting account. So if you want to use external SMTP servers, you put it in here. So let's save the settings. Okay, at this point we have the plugin installed and we have the initial bones set up here. In the next video we're going to go through actually setting up our newsletters and broadcasts. In this video we're going to go and we're going to set up our newsletters, and I'm going to show you how the thing works. Now first of all, in the dashboard here you can subscribe to the WP Autoresponder email newsletter. You just put your name and email address in here and subscribe, and then you can get the newsletter. Now your subscribers, when you get them, will appear here. So you'll have your newsletter name, confirmed subscription, unconfirmed subscription, and unsubscribed subscribers. So this is your stats that are going to show up at the top here. And then down here you can report a bug. Now the first thing you're going to need to do is set up a newsletter. Can't do anything until you set up at least one newsletter. Okay, and that's because you don't have any way to collect any subscribers yet. So you need to create the newsletter. So let's create an initial newsletter here. Okay, so here we enter the name of a newsletter. This is shown to the subscribers when they unsubscribe and to you in the admin panel. Okay, so let's put a name in here. Okay, now these are hard to find. Let me click over here. You'll see that it's very hard to find where these are over here. So they're just over on the right hand side. So let's give the newsletter a name here. We'll say list building newsletter. Okay, from name. So this is the name that's going to show up when they receive the email. Okay, so next we have the email address here. It's going to set it to what we have on the admin page here, unless we reset it here. Okay, we need to put in the reply to address here. So you can just put in the same thing if you want. So admin at and then the public description. This is, as it says here, that it'll be used on the unsubscribe page to describe the newsletter when listing all the subscriptions of the subscriber. Okay, so if they're subscribed to several of your newsletters, when they go to the unsubscribe page, it's going to show them all there. Okay, so let's just put list building. Now, even though it says here it will use the email address in your profile, it doesn't seem to work. Let's just test it out here. It's probably going to give me an error. Yeah, see, even though it says that you can leave that blank, you actually cannot. So we're going to just put our email address in there. So they have a little bug there, or they are not describing right what needs to go there. Okay, so let's create the newsletter. Okay, so there you go. We have our first newsletter created. Now, some other things you can do here. You can manage leads. Of course, we don't have any yet. And we can add custom fields. So if you want to add more fields, you can add them here. Okay, so if you wanted their address or their phone number or whatever you want, you can add the new fields here. Okay, so anytime you want to create a new newsletter, you just put it in here. Okay, now we have a newsletter. We can set up our autoresponders. So what we want to do is add an autoresponder. Okay, now first we're going to add the name of the autoresponder here. So let's call this lead list. And then you would pick your newsletter out of here. So if you had a list of them, you could pick them all here. I don't have the one, so let's add. Okay, so now we have our autoresponder and we have our newsletter. So the newsletter is the general heading, and it gets the settings from there, and then the autoresponder determines the messages that go out and when they go out. Okay, so let's add a message. So this is where you start adding your autoresponder messages. You'll see there's a little editor in here, or you can use plain text email if you want. Okay, so your subject in here. So first lesson on building your list. Okay, and I'm going to use a plain text email. It's up to you how you want to do this. I found that plain text emails deliver better, but it's up to you how you want to do it. You can use the editor if you want to do it that way. Okay, now you'll see down here it says custom placeholders. So if you created some custom fields, they'd show up down here. You also have name here. Let's put it in there. So we go hi name and then content. See you next time. Okay, now over here to be sent. So we want to send it 0 days after subscription. So when they subscribe, and then we're going to add the message. And there it is. Okay, let's add another message. Okay, and then you go through the same thing, lesson 2. Okay, plain text I'm going to use. Okay, now days after subscription. So it isn't the number of days since the last email, it's a number of days after you subscribe. So let's say 3. Add message. Okay, so now we have day 0 and day 3. Okay, now so we've already gone through custom fields. Next thing we do is a subscription form. You need to set up a form to collect your subscriptions. And this video is getting kind of long, so we're going to go over the rest of this in the next video. Okay, now we're going to continue where we left off. So we're going to create a new form. Okay, so this is the form's name here. So this is just used to identify the form settings. So we'll call this list building, list leads. Okay, our newsletter. So we've defined only one newsletter, but the drop-down list will be there. Return URL. This is where they're going to be sent after they have subscribed. So you'd want to set up a page somewhere, or you could send them to your blog homepage, wherever you want to send them. This is where you put the URL in here. Okay, so I'm just going to use my front page for now, but you could just go and set up a page on your blog, or you could set up a page somewhere else. Okay, blog subscription. This will, if you want, you can add them in to your posts. You can sort of subscribe them to your posts, or you can subscribe them to a category. I'm not going to do that on a standalone autoresponder. Okay, follow-up subscription. So the content that will follow up will be the autoresponder lead list here. Okay, so that's going to add them to our lead list autoresponder. And then our subscribe button text. We have subscribe here, we can change that. Okay, so down here we have our confirmation email. So we can change these if we want down here. Okay, so let's create the form and get the code. Now if you wanted to put it on the sidebar, you can use widgets and put it on the sidebar of your blog. Okay, but what I want to do is use the form code. Now with the form code you can put it on any web page. So that's how we're able to use this autoresponder for any of our websites. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll do a select all here and copy. You can preview here. It's outside of our window here. Okay, so that's all it is. It says name and email and subscribe. So what you could do is just build yourself a table or use the div tags and create a nice box to put around this. This just gives you the basic part of the subscribe box, just like any other autoresponder. It doesn't have any styling, so you're going to have to do that part yourself. Okay, so let's take that now, go to our front page, and we're going to edit page, and we'll just say subscribe here. Now we need to go to text here. We can't do this in visual because this is code that we have here. So when you're using it in WordPress, we're going to have to put that in like that. We'll update. Okay, now let's view the page. So we'll visit the site. Okay, because we set this as our front page. And here we go. Okay, as you see my wonderful typing, I made a mistake up here, but we can fix that easily. So enter your name, Tony, and email. Okay, so let's subscribe now. We'll run through a test. Okay, now remember our return URL just sent us back here, but we would have set up a custom page. Okay, so now at that email address, we should have received our email for the subscription. Okay, so here we are. Here's the response required email. So let's click on that. So it wants us to confirm. So here it is. We'll click on the confirm link here. Okay, so it's confirmed our subscription. Now let's go back in here and let's do a refresh. Alright, so now it sent us the automated newsletter just telling them that they are in the autoresponder sequence and they're soon going to start receiving the emails. And here they can manage their email subscription. So let's go here. And remember, when we set up the newsletter, we were able to list the name of the newsletter so that we can show them here, and they can unsubscribe to multiples at once. So let's just cancel that. Okay, so there it is. So now our autoresponder will start sending out the newsletters. Okay, so back to our dashboard, you'll see that we now have one confirmed subscriber. Okay, now let's go down here to background processes. This is where you can set your autoresponders to run. And you also have your post series, which we didn't go here, but if you use the post series, you can use that. Newsletter broadcast processor, so that's for broadcast. Blog post email delivery responses, that's for blog posts, which we didn't go over and we're not using here. And blog category subscriptions. Okay, so you can use these to force the delivery. And then here you have queue management. This shows you what's in the queues. So we have one email pending delivery. So it's going to go out to that subscriber, which we just tested. And once it does, it will delete the sent emails out of here by itself. Okay, so it's all ready to go. Okay, now let's talk about broadcasts. So we can do a new broadcast. And we can broadcast to the newsletter. And then we can put in our subject here, our text body. Okay, then we have our custom fields. So we have name and email down here. And then if we want to send it in HTML, we can send it in HTML as well. So either way, you can do text. And then if you want to do HTML as well, I'm going to disable HTML. So let's just put a quick one in here. Let's just say subject test broadcast. And testing. Okay, down here we can send it immediately or we can set a time. Okay, so if we click this, we can go into here, set the date and time. I'm going to send it immediately. Okay, so there's a preview function here, but there's a bug in it. So as you see, it doesn't work. So just have a look at what you've put in here and make sure that it's okay. Then we can just send the message. Okay, so there we go. It's been scheduled and will be delivered at the specified time, which was immediately. So if we go down to queue management now, you'll see that we have one in here. Okay, so we should get a broadcast shortly. Now, what we can do, if we go down to background procs, we can tell it to use the broadcast. So the newsletter broadcast processor, we can click run now, and that'll process those. Okay, let's go back to queue management. Okay, you'll see we have 2 in the queue now. Okay, so it's going to send those out, and once it does, it'll delete them out of the queue. Just a couple more quick subjects here. Let's go to actions. What this is it's list automation. So what you can do is if they unsubscribe from one newsletter, you can have them subscribe to another. This is how you could use, or you could build your buyers list from a lead list. So if they unsubscribe from the list building newsletter, you can subscribe them to a different newsletter. So if you had a course on building a list and they subscribe to that, you would want to unsubscribe them from this newsletter. So that keeps your buyers list and your leads list separate. Okay, and then the other thing is you can import and export leads. Okay, so if you have a different autoresponder, you can bring them in here. So you can import your leads, or you can download and export your leads here. Okay, so that's all there is to it. That's how you can set up your own autoresponder system using WordPress.